Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Brewers Minute. So this week, we're doing something a little bit different. This week, we have a Pauper primer. We have, for the first time ever, like semi-officially supported Pauper events at GPs starting this month. So if you are someone that mostly plays paper, but are interested in Pauper, perhaps because of videos by the professor. What other P words can we slip in there? Man, I love this. There's so much alliteration in this. Playing Pauper and paper because of videos by the professor. It's just perfect. Anyway, if you are a paper player interested in playing Pauper, suddenly you have endless opportunities at side events at GPs. This could be the first step towards making Pauper a legitimate paper format where you're able to play it maybe at its own GP. Who knows where this path will lead? But altogether, these side events mean it is a time that we need to talk about Pauper because suddenly it is relevant outside of Magic Online. So today, we're going to talk about basically everything you need to know about Pauper from start to finish. What I'm not going to do is delve into the nuts and bolts. There are people that play way more Pauper than I do. I have played a little bit over the years, but not as much as Modern, not as much as Standard or other formats. So there's definitely better people to listen to if your goal is to get advice like, oh, what is this sideboard card for? Why do you have this card in this specific matchup? Things like that. There's people way better than me, but I think I can give you a pretty good overview of the Pauper format from my perspective. So a quick reminder before we have our Pauper primer, if you enjoy Brewers Minute and the other series here on the channel, it would be amazing of you if you could take a quick second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So number one, what is Pauper? Pretty straightforward. Pauper is an all-common format. That is the primary characteristic of Pauper. Only commons are legal. So most people hear this and hear only commons and they think, okay, this format can't be very powerful, probably not very competitive, it's some casual thing. And that is exactly wrong. In my experience with Pauper, it is extremely competitive. Pauper is essentially Legacy LITE. The Pauper audience, the Pauper crowd, the Pauper players are essentially people who like the gameplay style of Legacy, but either don't want to or can't spend thousands of dollars to build a Legacy deck, buying all the dual lands and that stuff. But if you play Pauper, you can do the same things. Brainstorming, shuffling your library, chaining together ponders, playing delvers, dazing your opponent, playing big mana strategies, casting lightning bolts. There's actually a lot of powerful stuff happening in Pauper, but the appeal of this is you get to get that style of play, this Legacy-esque style of play for like $50 a deck, some even less than that, instead of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a deck, which it costs to actually buy into Legacy. So that is the Pauper crowd. It is basically Legacy LITE. It is very competitive. It is similar to Legacy as far as gameplay is concerned, and the people that play it are out there looking to win. It is certainly not some casual, we're just out here to have fun. You're getting dazed, you're getting your stuff counterspelled and lightning bolted, and it actually feels a lot like Legacy, which is crazy because it's all commons, but there's a lot of powerful commons if you go back through the history of Magic. So that's number one. As far as the card pool, we talked about how the number one rule is only commons. However, there is a couple of things worth mentioning here. Number one, Pauper, even paper Pauper, is going by the Magic Online card pool, which means there's a few cards that are commons on Magic Online that were never commons in paper. Probably the biggest example of this is Battle Screech. It was an uncommon back in Judgment. It was a common on Magic Online and Vintage Masters. Also, Chainer's Edict was an uncommon in Torment, was a common in Vintage Masters. So because Chainer's Edict and Battle Screech were printed as commons on Magic Online, they are considered to be commons as far as paper Pauper as well, even though they've never been printed as commons in the paper world. So keep that in mind when your opponent Battle Screeches you or Chainer's Edict away your Gurmag Angler or something, or your Delver of Secrets. It is legal because those cards were printed as commons on Magic Online. So that's worth mentioning. Also, there is a ban list in Pauper, and right now it is 10 cards deep. Good news is half of the ban list approximately is Storm cards. So Storm in Pauper is kind of like Storm in Modern, where Wizards just kept banning pieces. Finally, they were just like, all right, we're getting rid of it altogether. So about half the ban list is Storm cards. Empty the Warrens, Grape Shot, Temporal Fissure, all Storm finishers. Also Frantic Search, Cloud of Fairies, kind of free spells. The rest of the ban list, Cloud Post just makes too much mana for the Pauper format, even though Tron is a thing in Pauper. Cranial Plating powers up Affinity, which is a deck in Pauper. Affinity is a popular deck. Also Invigorate, a little bit too good in Stompy beatdown type decks. And then Peregrine Drake was basically the Splinter twin of the Pauper format. And finally, Treasure Cruise. Ancestral Recall, just a bit too good for an all-common format. So those are the 10 cards that are banned in the format. Mostly Storm, but a few other select cards. As far as the Pauper metagame, it's worth pointing out two things about the meta. Definitely head over to the Goldfish metagame page, look over, you can see deck prices, you can pick out a deck that's good for you, but be warned, all of the deck lists on the site and most of the Pauper tournaments come from Magic Online. And Magic Online has the weird deck list reporting thing where they only show 5 lists a day and they don't overlap with each other, which means the Pauper metagame isn't actually as diverse as it looks. If you look at the decks, it looks like, oh, there's a bunch of 9%, 8%, 8%, 8%, 7%. I don't think that is actually true. If you look at some of the bigger tournaments that actually show all the lists that perform well, I'm pretty sure that Delver is the #1 deck in Pauper at the moment. The good news is Pauper is truly a diverse format, and there are a lot of decks that can compete in the format. So even though I think it's a little bit deceiving that Delver is ranked as, I don't know, 7% of the meta, it's probably 15, 20% of the meta, something like that. It is also true that Pauper is a really diverse meta, and that's one of the things that makes it so great and why I think a lot of people might be interested in this format in the paper world, because no matter what style of deck you like to play, in Legacy, in Modern, in Standard, there is a Pauper deck that will kind of give you a Pauper version of your favorite archetype. So let's say you want to play Control. 5-color Tron is probably the #1 control deck at the moment. You're using Tron lands to cast Mystical Teachings for removal spells and casting Muldrifters to draw cards. There's also straight blue-black control, sometimes using Mystical Teachings as a tutor to find your removal and your counters, and then closing things out with like Gurmag Angler, which is one of the big finishers of the Pauper format. So you definitely have plenty of options if you want to play old school, draw go, counter all your stuff, think twice on your end step, make you incredibly miserable control decks. There's also tribal decks. Elves is one of the best decks in the Pauper format, built around tribal synergies, flooding the board with elves. There's also Slivers, a little bit more rogue and further down the meta, but it's kind of the merfolk of the Pauper format. You just have 12 2-mana lords and stack them up and hope they can win. If you want non-tribal aggro, there's Affinity, there's Kadoltha Boros. Delver gives you a tempo style deck where you're looking to stick your threat and then kind of defend it with counter spells, maybe use a bit of removal and beat down with your Delver of Secrets and Ninja Deep Hours. If you like straight up combo, there's Boggles, there's Burn, there's even Inside Out combo and other rogue combo decks like we played Freed from the Real combo. Midrange is a one that's a little bit questionable. I'm not exactly sure what the mid-range deck is in the Pauper format. Probably the closest is White-Black Pestilence, which kind of uses big toughness creatures to keep your Pestilence alive and shoot down your opponent's stuff. But pretty much, if you play any style of deck in the history of Magic, you can find a Pauper deck that is going to fit right in for you and feel natural, make you feel at home. That is basically my take on Pauper. Feels like Legacy, very competitive. The biggest upside is it's ultra cheap. Decks range from like $30 to maybe $80 on the top end in the paper world, which means you get this Legacy-esque experience for literally a fraction of the price. For, I don't even know, 5% of the cost of a Legacy deck would be buying a tier Pauper deck, something like that. It's just so much cheaper than it is to play Legacy, and the style of gameplay is very, very similar. Keep in mind, it's going by Magic Online rules, so make sure to familiarize yourself a little bit with the Magic Online aspects of Pauper if you're going to play in these paper tournaments. And like I said, scroll through the metagame page, and no matter what style of deck you want to play, you're going to be able to find the perfect Pauper deck for you, because Pauper literally has it all. Tempo, midrange, aggro, tribo, control, combo, any style of Magic you enjoy, you can find a Pauper deck that fits that style. So anyway, that's been our Pauper primer. Hopefully this is helpful with the Pauper events coming out. Let me know what you think. Are you going to play in these paper Pauper events? Do you play Pauper on Magic Online? Do you enjoy the format? Have you never played the format, but now you're interested thanks to these announcements? Let me know what you think in the comments. What's your favorite Pauper deck? Let me know that as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.